From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Welcome to the bulletin. Coming up, MPP's Deputy Director of Communications becomes first scapegoat of the Supreme Court's attempt to stop what it describes as contemptuous remarks about its proceedings in ongoing election petition hearing. President John Mahama inaugurates advocacy think tank to accelerate economic integration of West Africa. British High Commission says its visa processes have not changed for prospective visitors to the United Kingdom. Parliament approves government's request to access $1 billion from the international capital market. And inflation for May goes up to 11.1% as Ghana Statistical Service announces rebase formula. We also have sports, showbiz, and international news coming up.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
In our very first story, the Solicitor General of the Ghana Police Service, Wilfred Boahin Frimpong, has furnished the Judgment Debt Commission with a file relating to one Dauda Adams and 3 police officers. The commission had requested the documents to help it better understand a petition brought before it relating to indiscretion on the part of the 3 officers, which cost the state 42,000 Ghana cedis in a judgment debt payout.
Deputy Head of Legal Wilfred Boahin Frimpong represented the Ghana Police Service in the case titled Dauda Adams, Nicholas Adom, the IGP and the Attorney General. The case, which involved indiscretion on the part of 3 police officers, led to the payment of a 42,000 Ghana cedis compensation to an aggrieved party.
There was a gentleman who had parked his vehicle at the filling station, traveled out of the country. Whilst he was away, an attendant took the vehicle together with friends, went into town and were accosted by these policemen. They abandoned the vehicle. The policemen took the vehicle to the Odoko police station and left it there. When the man came back, he went there to collect his vehicle. He was arrested, charged with stealing. When they went to court, they were not able to substantiate their charge, and the man was discharged. Subsequently, the man took civil action to reclaim certain his vehicle and then certain properties of his that were collected from his house when those policemen went to search the place.
One John Kwame Kodua was also brought before the commission in respect of payment of compensation to landowners of Barikese in Kumasi, where lands were acquired for construction of the waterworks.
The correspondence available to this commission indicates that the payments were made to landowners in Barikese, Owabi. But he made it clear to us that the payments were only in respect of lands in Barikese minus Owabi.
Other cases involved International Tobacco Company versus SEPS, SNIT and the Attorney General, as well as latex form against the Attorney General, who has submitted requested documents to the Commission. The Judgment Debt Commission has been adjourned until 8 July 2013.
An advocacy think tank to accelerate the integration of West Africa has been inaugurated here in Accra by President John Mahama, with a call on Nigeria to play a more critical role in bringing countries in the sub-region together. The Center for Regional Integration in Africa, CRIA, will be based at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA.
The center is to provide research-based recommendations to fast-track regional integration, which has been under consideration for several decades. Most speakers admit that despite the existence of organizations like the AU and ECOWAS, integration has failed and wondered why.
Why have the African states not taken advantage of regional economic integration to stimulate intra-regional trade, build quality infrastructure for business, produce industrial or manufactured goods instead of exporting primary or raw materials and importing finished goods including nowadays used or second-hand goods from abroad, goods which is now known as the goods from home, or from the homemade and so on. And I continue to ask, whose home is that? Hence, the need for an integration institute like CREA to provide the requisite human and institutional capacity for effective implementation of the continent's integration strategy.
The other speakers had reason to believe the center would perform better than the AU.
I think what has really undermined a lot of what we've tried to do is somehow lack of confidence. We will bring it back. We will re-engineer our mindset, and we will tell the world we are number one, not with our lips, but also making sure that we do it.
Chairman for the program, Dr. Buzia, said this potential can be reached if recommendations by the center are successfully adopted and honestly implemented. President Mahama said appropriate infrastructure and clear interpretation to regional border guidelines are crucial to regional integration.
Probably the most difficult is trade, like I said, how to move goods and services across our borders. You are allowed to move raw materials duty and tariff-free amongst ECOWAS countries. You attempt taking a container full of chicken and say you're sending it to Lagos or you're sending it to Niger or somewhere. The human interference in the movement of those goods is terrible. Nigeria is the largest economy in West Africa, and it has the biggest market. By just that, factor, Nigeria has a certain leadership role to play in terms of moving the integration project forward. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. There are prohibitions that Nigeria imposes. They just announce it in the budget and say, look, none of these products is allowed to come into Nigeria. And it doesn't matter the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. It creates problems in terms of exporting into the Nigerian market. And I've told several consultations with Nigeria that Nigeria has nothing to fear from any other West African country. And so if Nigeria will take the leadership, I'm sure that we'll be able to make faster progress than we've done. It's my distinguished honor and pleasure to declare the Center for Regional Integration in Africa duly inaugurated.
He said another difficulty is the Anglo-Francophone factor, adding political will is also critical. The center is expected to work around the highlighted challenges against integration and make recommendation and advocacy moves accordingly. Gifty Ando-Apia, Joy News.
Now, civil society is advocating the installation of Ghana's education strategic plan from regime change, making strong arguments during Star Ghana's second annual convention. They indicated partisan politics is affecting the quality of education.
The NPP's 2003 to 2015 education strategic plan that changed senior high school education from 3 to 4 years was truncated when the NDC government in 2010 reversed the number of years the students stay in school to 3 years. The experts, however, say the education strategic plan's susceptibility to such changes has led to disruption in implementation programs and impacted negatively on the system. Executive Director of Associate for Development Partnership, Akwesi Adebwahene, says the education system can be strengthened if the process for drawing the plan is participatory enough.
What I believe should be done is to put together a team that will review it and look at all the different aspects that people have other perspectives, so that at the end of the day, whatever is captured as the revised ESP has everybody's input, so that from there on we will say this is a document for Ghana. It should also be a document that the citizens will defend, because if citizens are there to defend the document because they contributed to designing it, then politicians will not be able to change it as they wish.
The convention is to bring together civil society and organizations supported by Star Ghana to review the progress of various projects they are undertaking. Star Ghana says some progress has been made despite the challenges.
There have been immense achievements, particularly in connection with the elections, particularly with the oil and gas sector. Civil society organizations pushed for the enactment of a number of legislation around the sector, but there are still challenges. Challenges in the sense that organizations are working as individual organizations, but they need to come together in order that they can achieve greater change. That is not happening. And we want to use this convention to see how we can get organizations to work together.
22 media organizations will meanwhile benefit from a $2 million grant to enable them carry out various capacity building and development programs. Since its inception, Star Ghana has awarded grants to 187 organizations to improve areas such as education, health, election, as well as oil and gas.
In our very next story, we're going to the election petition hearing, which has dominated the airwaves today. The NPP's Deputy Communications Director, Sami Wuku, he became the first scapegoat of an attempt by the Supreme Court hearing the election petition to stop what it describes as comments contemptuous of its proceedings. The court, after hearing his retraction and apology for comments describing the judges as hypocritical and selective on an Accra-based radio station, decided to bar him from the Supreme Court chamber for as long as the election petition hearing. They, however, vowed to forthwith deal ruthlessly with any such attempt to undermine the authority.
Justice William Atuguba, at the start of proceedings today, made the intentions very clear.
When we issued our final touchline warning, that was on Monday, since then it has come to our notice that Mr. Sam Awoku, and as son, he's been coming to court. I've never known him anyway. But if he's here, we may like to, he reacted to that statement in a certain way. Is he here?
The NPP Deputy Communications Director, who was not present in court at the time the notice was served, turned himself in later after the court's break and rendered an apology to the bench.
I offer an unconditional apology and withdraw the comment and the choice of words that were used, which might have embarrassed the court or embarrassed your lordships on that said program yesterday. What did you say on that program? On that program, tempers flared up. It was a political discussion, and my colleague from the other side, from the NDC, did make a comment that did infuriate me. That is no justification to have followed suit, to have embarrassed the court. Though he did indicate that all these things that we are going to court for will amount to nothing. I got infuriated, and I also said, when these comments come and orders from the court who does not cover that, then it's selective. But upon sober reflection, I withdraw those words and those comments unreservedly.
In a rare show of unanimity, counsels for both the petitioners and the respondents pleaded with the court to show mercy. The judges then retired into chambers for about an hour before coming out with their ruling.
It is quite apparent that a pompous show of private power in the pursuit of the right to engage in political organizations and activity by which the passions of the humble members of society are stirred up on deliberately false political propaganda is a recipe for chaos and conflict in this country. We have seen the Kenyan precedent in this context, and much as we are concerned not to exercise our undoubted powers as a court of law with iron fist, we cannot allow the emergence of over 90 subjects in this country, as we said on the 24th day of June 2013. However, in order to show that we mean well for this country with regard to the exercise of our awesome powers, we have decided to stop short of invoking our powers of contempt, and we invoke in the alternative our power to control the attendance of our proceedings as a public court by members of the public. We take judicial notice of the fact that Mr. Sameh Awuku has been attending the proceedings of this court in this ongoing case. We think that the exclusion of Mr. Sameh Awuku from attending the proceedings of this court for the rest of the duration of this case should suffice for a start in this direction. That is our delivery.
Thank you.
Now, we've given you full opportunity to demonstrate how mighty you are, and we hope you've done so.
My lords,
Do you now realize your real size in this country?
Yes, my lords.
Good. You are discharged.
Thank you, my lords.
The court has meanwhile requested the referee, KPMG, to appear to be cross-examined on their audit reports by the petitioners. Hearing continues tomorrow.
But you don't have that liberty to create...
Well, there was quite a bit of a stir when the Deputy Communications Director of the MPP arrived at the premises of the Supreme Court after he was declared wanted by the panel of justices. Sameh Awuku was accompanied by some supporters of the party. He addressed the media along with spokespersons for both the petitioners and the respondents after today's proceedings.
They can't talk. Hey, Kubi. Anyway, I'm back on where the guy is.
Sameh Awuku has meanwhile rendered a public apology he promised the Supreme Court today. When he appeared on the Accra-based radio station, they first played back his earlier controversial remarks.
I find Justice William Atubuga's direction as discriminatory and hypocritical. Is it not fair to criticize this? And I'll tell you why. If undermining the authority of the judges, because all that he was talking about, comment the reporter it seeks to undermine the authority of the judges.
Then he repeated his apology.
In fact, my chair saying Pamucho will court. But Miss Sashi, a judge for the bonus said, I want baby a children or no, a 1 year son. And into Mesamba Peace FM studio, no man samba babe cut the same thing. Wow. Now I'm a part or more Charles or intimidate Bessie.
All right, so to summarize what he said in the local language, there he is saying that briefly he apologizes, he withdraws his comments, and that he will leave it at that. Now, that's the issue we're asking you to comment on social media, on our social media platform. And the question is, MPP Deputy Communications Director Sameh Awuku has been asked by the Supreme Court not to attend the election petition hearing after today for the rest of the duration of the case for comments he made that the judges described as contemptuous of their proceedings. Do you think it was punitive enough, or the judges were too lenient? Share your thoughts, and we'll be taking them during the primetime news bulletin. So we have David King, but he has something that looks like some thesis. So I'll skip that, and I'll go to Haji Abiba Poko, Selective Media House. I'm wondering what exactly you mean. David King says they should punish these commentators too. And then Shadrach Dari says, what if I comment and I'm invited to the Supreme Court as well? The burial of the dead is a warning to the living. Interesting comments there, Shadrach. Nita Kutz, the judges were too lenient, but I believe in their wisdom, and I'm glad it tempered justice with mercy. And kudos to all the counsels for pleading on his behalf. But being in the cooler, smaller world wouldn't be bad, though. And then Pato Kobe says, it is good, but not enough, at least a lesson to others. And what about the others? Is anyone above the law? So keep your comments coming in. The question is, do you think the sanction delivered to Samuel Wuku, was the judges were too lenient, or probably you think that they were punitive enough? We're taking a break. We'll be back with more stories. Don't go away. Members of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council in the Western Region have pledged to ensure voluntary compliance and sustainable enforcement of the fisheries law, whilst again collaborating with the newly established Marine Police in the activities to bring sanity to the fishing sector. Meanwhile, members have again denied the alleged use of formalin for fish preservation, saying that it was just mere rumor.
The members of the council, which is an umbrella association of artisanal fishermen, including chief fishermen, fishmongers, canoe owners, fish workers and other interest groups in the Western region, during a press conference led by the secretary, Nana Joseph Foe Sambi, said they were aware that some fishermen have adopted the use of harmful, obnoxious substances and other illegal fishing methods for fishing, which includes carbide, dynamite and other explosives, small mesh-sized nets, light fishing, among others, in contradiction of the Fisheries Law, Act 625 of 2002 and LI 1968 of 2010, adding they do not support such acts which are harmful to fisheries ecology and human health, and called on all fishers and fishmongers alike to desist from the use and comply with the fisheries laws. On the issue of using formalin for fish preservation, the members of the council claimed the statement is not true from their investigations conducted, and again for the fact that formalin is not just expensive but scarce and cannot be obtained without a medical permit. They, however, commended government for the establishment of the Marine Police Unit and pledged their support, whilst calling on them to work thoroughly through fairness and transparency. Meanwhile, a member of the Inshore Fishers Association, William Wood, is calling on government to supply fishermen with the right and legal fishing gears so that they can smoothly do away with illegal gears, including monofilament nets.
Minister no bigino on Nancy Dam Famalino. I again in Ghana so Yanam Okwam Bembia because of Yesino. Wama Ghana for Yanam de. Into Sianam Yadena as a minister, a Juma woman him, a Ghana, Nessa Eta Assembly, in Nentum, and investigation ye, and now I'm finding maybe I'm called lab, nan checking as a Kijina, private in that kind of man. Which is the Igua man and Massy. The whole Ghana. I can't say, but son, I got any, and I look at the massamy. And to them for Malino, I won't be there. My good year, but one door, the light fishing our bear, and no one since I don't my kamikaze, or a DD to dynamite, car bar, why she a cream all her agent. Now for Malina day, I had we did a many, what be a Jumon way.
Secretary of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Association, Nana Joseph Foe Sambi, also in an interview said the perception of the use of formalin was untrue, adding it was an allegation by some of their members, and called for further investigation into the matter.
Either it's from within our circle. How come one within a multitude say we are using formalin? You should have said I'm using formalin. That may prove him right that he is using it. Maybe at my station there, I haven't even seen a family. You see, how can I get it? How can I know this is family? And my work too doesn't need family. Being a chief fisherman at my area, we drag.
Chief Fisherman for Sekendi, Nana Kofie's son, however, blamed the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture for not conducting major investigations into the matter before coming out with a statement which is now having a negative effect on the activities of fishermen in the country.
Members of Parliament have called on all Ghanaians to be involved in the fight against drug abuse and the transport of illicit drugs to and from the country. They said Ghana stands to lose a great deal as the future leaders are the most vulnerable to illicit drugs and its implications.
MP for Keta, Richard Kwashiga, was the first to deliver his statement on the effect of drugs on the youth and the implication on national development.
Mr. Speaker, illicit drug use and substance abuse is now characterized by a concentration among the youth, who are expected to be the driving force behind our forward march to sustainable development.
Contributing to the statements made by the MP for Keta, Emmanuel Ejakun called for depoliticization of the fight against illicit drugs.
It is unfortunate that sometimes, for expediency, political and otherwise, people make a look and give color to it. Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that time has come for all of us as a nation to realize that, like Harvey Perez Dukwala said, it is a time bomb ticking in the heart of civilization.
Mutala Mohammed says the possibility of Ghana being used as a transit point has the tendency to crash the economy.
Government, if Ghana is used as a transit point, who are those who will use them? Those who will use these drugs are going not to be affected individually, but to a very large extent it affects the entire economy.
Ranking member of the House and MP for Sekendi, Papa Uswankuma, said Ghana's democracy has made it highly susceptible to abuse by the drug cartels.
Where democracy thrives and we have adherence to human rights, that is, and the economy is open, that is a fertile ground for the trade in drugs.
Jose Ewusu also complained about Yoko's activities when it comes to the procedures used in tackling the issue of drug cartels, saying it has the ability of increasing the crime rate.
The powers that are necessary for Yoko to deal with organized crime, probably related to drugs, has been given. Except that there appears to be, Mr. Speaker, some complaints of abuse of the powers conferred on that organization. That some of the preemptive powers that have been conferred on them by the law were prone to abuse.
Sitting continues tomorrow.
Up next, we bring you business news. Inflation for the month of May rose to 11.1% according to the rebate figures announced today by the Ghana Statistical Service. The new rate is based on a new basket of goods containing 272 items, up from 232 to better reflect market conditions. Marian Toure was at the news conference and has filed this report.
Consumer Price Index (CPI) measures over time changes in the general price level of goods and services that households require for the purpose of consumption, which is the food basket. This food basket needed changing to reflect current household patterns, including changes in consumption and income, hence the need to revise the weight regularly to bring it in line with the current spending patterns of the population. The new CPI is different from the existing one, and acting government statistician Dr. Philomena Nyako explains.
First one is that we have an increase in the number of markets covered from 40 to 42. We also have more outlets than before. Then the number of items that we normally that were included in the old basket now increased from 242 to 267. We also, in this rebasing, would like to report inflation rates separately for the Upper East and the Upper West region. The new weights that we have computed are based on the Ghana Living Standard Survey Round 5, which was conducted in between 2005 and 2006.
The 267 goods and services in the new basket were grouped according to the classification of individual consumption by purpose, COICOP recommended by ECOWAS.
When we look at the rate of inflation for May 2013, based on the rebase CPI, we have a figure of, for the year-on-year, the change rate is 11.1%. The monthly change rate is 2.8%. Now we try to compare these change rates with what we observed in the old series. So for the old series, the year-on-year inflation rates for May, we have 10.9% for the old series and 11.1% for the new series.
Meanwhile, PPI increased by 8.6% between May 2012 and May 2013 year-on-year, representing a dip of 1.6% for the month of May relative to the rate recorded for April 2013 of 10.2%. This means the production price of goods and services have decreased slightly, which should ideally affect the price you and I pay as final consumers of goods and services. The two major contributors of the monthly change are the mining and quarrying and manufacturing subsectors. Additionally, the real gross domestic product for the first quarter of 2013 grew by 6.7% year-on-year. For Joy News, Marian Toure reporting.
Now, Parliament today approved of government's request to access the international capital market to issue a second Eurobond of up to $1 billion. The approval, however, was not without some resistance from the minority.
Joy News a couple of weeks ago indicated the finance minister had brought before the Select Committee a supplementary budget of up to about $1 billion for approval. The paper on Tuesday was laid before the House for consideration, and the chairman of the Finance Committee, James Avajit, today read the report of the Finance Committee to the House.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that this Honourable House adopts the report of the Finance Committee on the request for approval of Government of Ghana's access to the international capital market to issue a second international sovereign bond known as Eurobond.
He had barely finished when the Deputy Minority Leader called for a point of order to question the motion before the House.
Mr. Speaker, and I quote him, Mr. Speaker, a preliminary objection was raised to which you did not give any ruling. What we said was that it is superfluous if they are coming under the Loans Act. And that is what this motion is. Maybe they can come under some other authority to seek our permission. Under the Loans Act, there is no agreement. The committee's report says to consider the agreement. Which agreement are we talking about? Between which parties?
This generated heated debate on the floor of the House, with statements made by the Speaker during the previous Parliament when he was the Deputy Speaker as the basis for the challenge.
It is a ritual that we need not repeat. As you go down this official report, there was even a debate as to whether the motion had been moved at all. And that threw us into a difficulty in terms of procedure. I will not go into the details about the level of virginity that the Honourable Minister then attributed to venturing into the private capital market. The funding gap was supposed to have been filled through domestic borrowing. And, Mr. Speaker, for me, when a Minister of Finance presents a budget statement which is approved and barely 3 months later he comes before the House and seeks approval for accessing foreign market with such a significant difference, then of course it means that there's something wrong with the planning and the forecast.
Then came some intervention from the Nadoli Kaleo MP.
My very good friends on the other side is aware that when we raised the preliminary objection and proffered those very brilliant arguments, they did not find the light of day.
The motion was adopted and subsequently approved by the House. The purpose of the Eurobond is to, among others, diversify the country's sources of funding. The indicative utilization of the bond is to counterpart funding for projects already approved and capital expenditures in the 2013 budget statement, with priority given to self-financing projects. It is also for the refinancing of maturing domestic debts to reduce the cost of borrowing and partial and gradual redemption of the Ghana Eurobond.
Some airlines have expressed their willingness to operate both passenger and dedicated cargo services to and from Accra. About 5 of these airlines are making preparations and are expected to begin full operations by the close of the year. Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Air Commodore Kwame Manfi, announced this when he briefed the Transport Minister and the media on the authority's operations. Meanwhile, government has secured the necessary funding to support the rehabilitation of the Kotoka International Airport to enable it better manage the growing number of flights it is having to handle.
Accra is fast becoming the aviation hub within the sub-region, with about 32 international carriers currently operating from Kotoka International Airport. The GCAA Director General says the number of airlines are bound to go up before the end of the year.
Africa is coming back. Tunis Air is also going to come before the end of the year. We also have the various co-share agreements. Air France, and we have just granted permission to Air France and KLM to do the co-share agreements. A committee will be in South Africa to continue the bilateral negotiations with various parties who have indicated their willingness to start flying into Accra.
According to him, there has been a steady growth in passenger numbers from 8,000 a month in 2011 to about 42,000 now. The Transport Minister, Jifa Ativo, said government had shown commitment to KIA expansion projects by releasing the loan secured for the purpose.
When you come to Kotoka International Airport, we have decided to refurbish the terminal building, and you can see that we are creating space for additional wide-body aircraft to park. Also, Tamale, the upgrade into international airport is on course. We have secured about $100 million to build a new runway. Kumasi Airport, the runway will be extended. That will be the phase 2. Which will also cost about $50 million. We'll have a new terminal building to provide facilities for the growing traffic to the Tamale, Kumasi metropolis.
The sector minister also indicated a concept paper on a flag carrier for the country has been developed and submitted to the Ministry of Finance, waiting for the transactional advisor to give them the go-ahead.
Right, up next we bring you some market data. Now, the British High Commissioner to Ghana says the United Kingdom is yet to implement a policy that will require nationals of some countries, including Ghana, to make a returnable deposit of £3,000 sterling before being allowed entry. Speaking on Joy FM Super Morning Show today, Peter Jones said the migrant bond plan remains a proposal and that the rules have not changed for persons seeking visas to travel to the United Kingdom.
An idea is under consideration, and the idea that's under consideration is that for a limited number of high-risk applicants, possibly a bond would be required where they pay a certain amount of money in advance. They go to the UK, if they come back, they get the money back. It's an idea under discussion. Nothing has been decided, and even if it were to come in, this would apply only to a very small number of applicants. So for the vast majority of people, nothing would change. And as I
Right, time for the very latest in the world of sports. My name is George Adi Jr. The Greater Accra Hockey Association, under the leadership of Frank Awuku, have managed to secure 3 major sponsorship deals in recent times for their league, knockout and gala competitions. Latest to support the association is Beige Capital, who have promised to invest 45,000 Ghana cedis in the sport. Beige Capital, a non-financial institution, and the Greater Accra Hockey Association have signed a 45,000 Ghana cedi sponsorship package to sponsor the hockey knockout competition. The contract will make available 15,000 Ghana cedis every year as sponsorship for the hockey knockout competition. The chairman of the Greater Accra Hockey Association, Frank Awuku, and head of regions at Beige Capital, Derek Odum, signed for their respective institutions at the ceremony in Accra.
We see hockey to be a great sporting discipline that we think we can impact a lot on. We believe that hockey has been played in Ghana for so many decades, but we have not seen the kind of growth that we all want. At the end of the sponsorship period, we want to see hockey at a different level from we see now. As a CSR policy and also strategy, we want to come to the aid of hockey to ensure that it also grow to the level that we all want, because we know that we have a large followership of hockey in Ghana.
It's something that will sell them also a lot, and they are proud. I remember when IPMC was sponsoring the league, Mr. Amar said he was in his office and his community people called him, "Hey, you are all over, we've seen you on TV, we've seen." He said he felt proud, and IPMC was always on GTV and other TV stations whenever we played the league matches on the weekend. So it is a leverage, and at the same time, it is a mileage for them too. And we thank the press for doing that. Give us more coverage, and then hockey will triumph in this country.
Beige Capital becomes the 3rd company to lend support to hockey this year, after similar presentations by Barge Freight and Logistics and Jodefo Adamfo, sponsors of the gala and league respectively. The 3 sponsorships remain the highest the sport has enjoyed in recent times. Beige Capital also promised to partner Gaha to grow the game and take their rightful place in Africa and the world. Now, the Black Satellites have a slim chance to prove their worth in the ongoing FIFA Under-20 World Cup when they play the United States in the final Group A game tomorrow. Despite losing 2 consecutive games, Ghana can qualify as one of the best third-place teams, and some fans who spoke to Joy Sports are making this plea to Coach Celestete and his boys.
The coach too, I don't know. Right from first half, if you played first half, I know a good coach, when you go to the dressing room and you come out from the dressing room, you go there to do your corrections. But I don't know what happened to Bobo. Anytime you go to the dressing room, if you come out, you won't see any changes. So if this team will lose, I'll weep for him, not for the rest of the team, but he, what he did to us, may God bless him.
Sometimes we are not coaches, but sometimes when we are in the means of the public watching the football, we are more than coaches, honestly speaking. So I think, to me, when we win this 3rd match, we will be coming from Coach Bobo. When we lose it again, it will be coming to him. But we pray to God, Almighty Allah, at least we should be victorious with the United States of America.
All right, and quick updates from the Confederations Cup. Brazil beat Uruguay by 2-1, making it to their dream final. That'll be all for sports. My name is George Adi Jr. Do have a good night.
One of Ghana's dancehall artists, Jupiter, is making preparations towards Ghana Meets Niger. The Ghana Meets Niger concert will be coming off this Saturday, the 29th of June. He tells Showbiz that it will be the first time he'll be dancing on stage as a performer. Meanwhile, dancehall mogul Samini is promising a showdown to crush his Nigerian counterparts who will be performing on the night.
Are you the wickedest time? Are you such a place on the wrist? Them a follow it. Give me the access time.
The dancehall star, who started with his show Jupiter and Friends in the clubs, will be performing on the Ghana Meets Niger stage with superstars like Samini, Burna Boy, Wizkid, Sarkodie, and a host of others. Jupiter says he has a planned surprise for his fans who will be at the Accra International Conference Center on the 29th of June when Ghana is meeting Niger.
She's so freaky, bad girl looking so pretty. That's why me love her. She bubble and wind her waist for me. She a wind her waist for me. You too naughty. She freaky, but she's so sexy. That's why me love her. She bubble and wind her waist for me. She a wind her waist for me. So baby, wine go on, wine go on. I've never danced before, so I'll be dancing on that day. You need to come.
Dancehall guru and Mobo Award winner Samini, on the other hand, has promised his fans that he is going to crush his Nigerian counterparts, Wizkid and Timaya, on the night. Samini says his stage performances over the years have been described as legendary, and so he is going to live that description.
Right, that's it for the bulletin. Before I go though, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who posted comments onto our Facebook wall. We had a total of 79 comments, and the comments are still coming in. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we weren't able to read the rest of the comments. But to wrap up the bulletin, the NPP's Deputy Director of Communication has become the first scapegoat of the Supreme Court's attempt to stop what it describes as contemptuous remarks about its proceedings in the ongoing election petition hearing. President John Mahama has inaugurated the advocacy think tank to accelerate economic integration of the continent. The British High Commission says its visa processes have not changed for prospective visitors to the United Kingdom. And in Parliament has approved government's request to access $1 billion from the international capital market. And the inflation for May has gone up to 11.1% as the Ghana Statistical Service announced the rebase formula. That's it for the bulletin. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good evening.